tall, gangly thing?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to High Roll Radio, episode number 9. My name is Nick DiPasquale. You may also know me as Gangly, and today I am joined by two wonderful co-hosts, Jirachy and Rainplosion. Jirachy coming off their season of casting competitive TFT, and Rainplosion coming off of her legendary 7th place run at the Dragonlands World Championship. Rainplosion, how are you feeling?
I'm still a little bit tired. I nearly overslept the entire thing, but glad to be here.
Good. Sorry, actually, real quick, chat. Let me know how audio sounds. I did see someone said that my mic is peaking. I'm fixing that. We are having quite a few different audio issues, so just let me know how everything's going, then I'll adjust it. Jirachy, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. A little sad I couldn't cast Worlds. In all fairness, I couldn't cast Worlds because A, I wasn't invited, and B, because I have grad school shit. So it's okay. It was still really fun getting to watch from home, getting to support Rain, getting to support the other NA players, and yeah, I'm having a good week.
Good. Well, for all of you who are watching right now, if this is your first time watching High Roll Radio, let me explain how this show works. So High Roll Radio is a live call-in show where you, the guests, are just as much a part of the show as we are. So let me explain how this all works. We are going to be taking callers live on the show. You can give us your hot takes, your questions, your opinions. If there's anything that you wanted to ask these two wonderful hosts that I have with me, this is your chance. So the way you do this, you're going to type in !Discord in the chat. Click that link, join my Discord. When you pull up the Discord, you'll see on the left-hand side the High Roll Radio tab. Go ahead and submit your take in the Submit Takes topic channel. Once you do that, go into the waiting room and mute your mic. If we like your take, Lawrence is going to bring you in for a quick mic check. And once that's all good, we'll bring you onto the show, and you'll just wait in the caller queue until we bring you on. So now that we did all of the what's the word? The home housekeeping. I knew. Thank you. All of the housekeeping, we the three of us can talk for a little bit. So I feel like it probably makes the most sense to start with the World Championship. Rain, obviously, you're coming off your run there. So this is up to you. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about, you want to recap the run a little bit for anyone who really may not have seen it as intimately? Like, how did you see your weekend's performance?
Yeah, so day one I played really risky, and I was both really tired and not feeling that great. But also I just didn't play my lines that well, and I started the day like 8-7 or something. So at that point I was like, statistically it's really likely I was out of the World Championship. I managed to pull it back. I eventually ended the day with the first. I ended the day with a 4.5 average, which meant that day 2 to get to day 3, I needed to average like a 3.5 or so. And day 2, we did that. Day 2, things went well. I got my lines. I got in the lobby with Soju, which for some reason meant that I won every single carousel because he's the only person all weekend I ever beat on carousel. But no, I won carousel one more time, but then they remade the lobby and they let Juan get the sword instead for some reason. But yeah, day 2 we got swords. I got my line.
Which, when you're saying your line, do you want to talk a bit about like what did you have a game plan of what you wanted to play?
I was very comfortable with the sword start because sword leads to some of the best items. Like if you get double trouble, you want swords for Rengar. If you get like any of the augments that enable you to play shield, you kind of really want like 10 swords. If you want to play Seraphic Graves, you want 12 swords. If you want to play Zaya, I mean, still like 2 swords is fine, and swords are still usable in most other comps. It's definitely like slightly harder to play for first with sword, but sword is like just a really well-rounded item, I think. And the final lobby, actually only 3 people were going for sword, but like I still sucked the carousel, so whatever.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the reality is you only need to go first one time, right? In the World Championship, there's only one game where it actually matters about going first. And I think we saw from regionals as well, especially with like the Soifen line and the Seraphine Graves line, I think to a degree that the Soifen line in particular, it's like if you play it well, if you hit, then you're pretty much guaranteed your third through fifth, and then you get out and you get your points, which makes a lot of sense for World Championship. I did look at the comps you played, and I saw that you played a lot of Seraphine Graves and a lot of Soifen, and this I didn't look up the numbers. I'm just going off memory. At regionals, you didn't you play quite a bit of Kaisa as well?
Oh yeah. My starts were I leaned towards Sortier. The problem was that in Worlds, the spots where I would play Kaisa, either I felt like I was contested or I didn't get the start that I wanted. Like to play Kaisa, you basically have to have a Laguna opener and you have to have a blue buff. If you don't have a blue buff, the shimmer item has to be like Gamblers. It takes like definitely a specific set of circumstances to play it, and I often didn't get the starts that were like necessary to play it, so I just didn't play it.
Do you want to talk a little bit about final day before I want to throw it over to Jirachy a little bit, kind of talk about like the other representatives we had, but do you want to talk a little bit about day 3?
Yeah, sure. Final day, I went into it thinking I was actually relatively confident, which didn't end up that well. Especially because I felt like checkmate format actually sort of suited my playstyle. I can definitely play first to 8th when I need to, which I played first to 8th like every single game. For sometimes when maybe I shouldn't have, like I probably shouldn't take egg when I just need a top 3, but whatever, all good. So I actually felt pretty confident going into checkmate format. Game 1 I played Seraphine Graves. I got a nice top 3. Game 2 I played Soifen. I hit Shiryu 2 on like floor 1 with 50 gold left. Yeah, whatever. Okay,
was that the clear mind? That was a clear mind game.
That was a clear mind game, and that
was a weird one.
It was so strange. I went like 6th or something. I don't know, like that game. I think I should have played Zaya. I think I should have lost Clear Mind Value to hold Zaya, but like, it's actually so hard to make that decision in the moment. But so whatever, I'm gonna just call that a wash. Whatever. Game 3, I was looking to go first, except literally every single person in the lobby held Graves. Okay, that's not true. Literally like 3 people in the lobby held Graves, and no one held Zaya. So they let that one person. I had like 4 copies of Graves, and they were holding Graves, by the way. And someone else had 6 copies of Zaya, and no one was holding Zaya. I would just like to call that out. Hello, World Championship people, do your scouting properly. Don't scout me. But I got Graves 3, so I had to push 9 instead, and then I couldn't outcap certain boards, like for example the Zaya 3. And then tragedy started. Last game I needed a top. Second last game I needed a top 6 to get into checkmate range. I went 8th somehow. Yeah, I don't even know. My setup wasn't even that bad, but everyone else was just slightly stronger than me or had a slightly better spot than me, and Title pulled more Guardian spots out of nowhere. Hello, I would like to say that I did not get a tome off Krug the entire tournament. I would like a tome off Krug, but that never happened. So sometimes I also don't think I played that game very well, so that was my bad. But I also didn't get the requisite high roll. It definitely wasn't a low roll game. Like, I know I went 8th, but I didn't actually low roll it that bad. I just didn't play that well. And I went 8th. So last game, 5 people in checkmate. I had to play for first because, like, if I don't play for first, then someone else is going for first. I go for the 1 in 7 chance that my dragon rolls into a Sohm when I hit Sohm 3. It didn't happen. So, BG.
Yep.
I don't know. If I knew exactly what would have happened, I like knowing that I couldn't have won, that Sohm wouldn't have rolled into Sohm 3. The correct play was actually to play for placement, so I could have gotten an extra $2,000. But I mean, I could have never known that in the moment. And like, if I didn't play for first, it'd probably always be a regret. So I played for first, and it didn't work out.
Yep.
Sucks to suck. I went 7th instead of. If I played for placement and I had sold my like literally. Luck Dragons, by the way, what is it? I had 7 times 42 gold on my bench. if I sold the 42 gold on my bench, because dragons cost way too much, and just rolled for like Nyla 2 or some shit, I probably could have gone top 3.
And actually more if you consider
whatever.
the interest gold that you might have been holding on to at some point as well. At some point. Well, that was the run. You know, it is what it is. 7th place, definitely not bad though. You know, I think we'll all take that. I do want to talk a little bit about the rest of the North American representatives though. AMD going 11th. Kyvix 22nd, and Soju coming in at 23rd. Jirachy, did anything stand out to you in particular?
Well, those three just like with the placements actually, Soju had a really hot day 1. I think he ended like top 8 or something, and Kivix like started out with the like 3-4. He had a hot start and then like cooled off as the rest of the tourney went on. I think like actually Andy doing so well. It wasn't exactly a surprise, but I think that Andy was really the unknown coming off of he won mid set and then kind of took 7.5 off and didn't have a good performance at regionals. So everyone was like, how's he going to do at Worlds? Turns out he actually did pretty well. So, you know, props to him.
Can I just say that if the cutoff had been 49 and 50, and the reason AMD didn't get in was because Kyvix griefed him, I would have been so mad. Because Kyvix was allowed to throw. He was allowed to throw.
Wait, was he?
Yeah, because the Chinese players did it in the Eastern LCQ, right? That's what I heard.
Did they?
I heard through the grapevine.
Well, like, they might have done it, but like I don't know if you're actually allowed to.
I'm pretty sure you're not. There is no shot you're allowed to. I think you're only allowed to when it directly benefits yourself. So like in
someone said in chat that the rulebook specifically banned throwing. Wait, so then how were the Chinese players allowed to do that? Because what the Chinese players did, and maybe it's because they threw by spending all of their gold and not buying units, so that's not throwing. But that's definitely throwing. And I didn't see it.
They threw in an excusable way, quote unquote.
Yeah, but couldn't Kyvix just accidentally sell his 3-star Namzi? But when trying to reposition
I'll say this. Kyvix really wanted to throw. He just said that like he was pretty sure that like on main broadcast it's really obvious if you're throwing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Also, especially to like, we know Andy and Kyvix are friends, so like it becomes super obvious, and I don't blame Kyvix for not throwing. It would have been really sad, but I think also the Kyvix.
I will say the casting on that.
Kyvix got an extra $500 for not throwing.
Oh,
I would have split.
I'll go.
That would definitely be against the rules.
What were you gonna say, Rain?
Oh, I will say, if you're listening to the casting on the final one, it was like also kind of funny. There's a lot of like bits like, oh, and the shroud goes totally wild. Kyvix misses his entire shroud, and he finds the Zephyr, and Amda finds the Zephyr again every single fight.
That's true. He definitely did. Well, I don't know, because I was watching AMD's POV, and it did look like he was like hard sweating positioning though. So I don't know.
Oh, Kyvix was hard sweating positioning, as in like he was trying to miss his shroud as hard as possible.
So AMD was trying as hard as possible to dodge it, and Kyvix was trying as hard as possible to miss it. Is that what you're saying? That is pretty funny.
Like the last second shroud swaps that if you looked at the broadcast, the last second shroud swaps from Kyvix into literally shroud 1 unit. Like I think he shrouded a Leona 1 like a couple times.
Someone saying
or Leona 2 a couple times.
Someone saying in chat that Kyvix did the math to make sure he wasn't that throwing wasn't a waste. I don't know if that's true, but if that's the case, I mean, but I don't know if that's possible in game. There's no way, right?
Kyvix didn't know.
Yeah. That's what I thought
until after. Like Kyvix really wanted to lose that one.
That makes sense. I mean, it's just the way it goes. But it would have been really cool to see both AMD and Rain in the final lobby. Oh well. Next set we go.
It happens, and honestly, like I think NA should be proud of the performance we had. We almost had 2 players in finals. We have the 7th best player in the world.
We almost beat Latin America.
Like, solid. Sorry?
That we almost beat Latin America.
Latin America has low-key been strong this whole time and has been not getting the respect that the region deserves. That's my hot take.
I mean, it's fair to say now that they had 2 players in the top 8, but I mean, in the Don't Talk If You Don't Know, I mean, literally everybody except for China. Actually, Tanner was the only person that ranked Latin America high. Actually, I think Tanner had Latin America higher than Pi Hat had Latin America, if I remember correctly.
Really? Huh.
Wait, did
Yeah, Tanner put Latin
Oh.
America like 5th or something out of the regions. It was very high compared. I think it was directly below NA, or maybe I don't think it was above NA, but it was very high. So
Tanner had LATAM 5th apparently.
Yeah.
Below NA, but above BR, JP, and OC.
yeah, so Tanner knew. The Chinese, not only are they better than us at TFT, they know more about the Western regions than we do.
But no, Pi Hat definitely had LATAM higher. Pi Hat had LATAM 4th.
Oh, okay, but I think that
Above NA.
was a meme. I'm not gonna lie. I think he did it above NA just to mess with everybody else on the show.
It's okay. Chat, we agree. Everyone here agrees with chat. NA and LATAM and OCE and Japan and Korea are significantly better than EU.
I kind of wish that we could have a good relationship with EU. You know, like I wish we could have this like camaraderie of like the West comes together to defeat the East.
No.
It's never going to happen. I mean, if it does, it's going to be like we join forces with Latin America, right? It's never going to be that we join forces with the EU.
We are never joining forces with EU.
I need to stop shitting on EU so much because I've been talking with some of them and I think there might be some crossover. I told them like, hey, if y'all want to get me on one of the EU tournaments.
Wait,
and
for when? What did you just say?
For next set.
Because you're going to be over there?
At that I might try and cast one of their tournaments. I'm still going to be primarily an NA caster.
Oh, I see.
But I've
cool.
But through like talking to them about world stuff, and just some other stuff, I've like kind of developed enough of a relationship, and I've been talking to a lot of EU casters. So I might go over and really cast one of their tournaments. Maybe there's nothing confirmed yet.
Sure.
Trust me. Yeah.
Oh,
So I should stop shitting on EU so much. Hey EU, I love you and would like to cast.
I do love the EU casters, I will say. I would love to. I mean, when Panda was on the show, I loved getting to talk to him. He was really cool. So as much as I love flaming Europe, they've got some pretty cool people. I'm also the biggest Gunmei fan in the world. I love myself some Gunmei. So real quick for chat, while you're in here, if anyone has a take regarding Worlds, because we do have some takes, but while we're on the topic of Worlds, if anyone wants to talk about something like that, feel free to drop in a take there and we can pull you in quicker before we get to things like Set 8 and Summit. And actually, I did want to outline that real quick. The main 3 topics we're going to be talking about today are Worlds, Set 8, and the TFT Summit coming up in December. So feel free to have any takes about those, but if you have something else, drop it in there as well. We might be open to talking about anything. Okay, so we're on Worlds. We also had a new format this time around. I would love to hear everyone's opinion on that. So 10 games over 2 days, and then cutting down to top 8. Rain, why don't you go first? Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on it.
I actually do like the format. I think it's better than than like cutting people day one, because then no matter how like badly you play, you can it's still something to play for on, or like not no matter how badly you play, like like even if you play bad, there's still like you still have day 2 to play. Like coming from someone who got day 1 at mid-set, it's really sad to like block out a 3-day tournament and then just like spend the last 2 days doing nothing. So just from like a player perspective, it feels a lot better to have 2 days guaranteed. Obviously, I would prefer having 6 games because I think most players would prefer having more games. I think it was brought up by Sherman that too many people are mathematically eliminated after 2 games or after 10 games. So that might not happen immediately, but I definitely like the format compared to like
I see.
Last Worlds.
So he's saying the problem with doing 12 games is that after 10, people are just dead in the water and left playing 2 games that have no impact on advancing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Soju just ended stream after the ninth
Yeah.
game because he was out of it. He was asking if he could just like leave in 3-2 and play Valorant.
Seriously?
And I was I mean, I would have been very happy if he left on 3-2 and played Valorant because I was in his lobby and I kind of needed that +1 placement. Instead of that, this guy hard spots positioning against me every single time we fight. When I needed top 3. I don't get it. This guy just like hard spots positioning. I have never seen someone sweat positioning harder in my life. Also, I think like in the final game where he DMs me on well, not on Discord, but like, or not like me directly, but he DMs like the group chat. Hello, Rain. I am high rolling so hard in the middle of like 3-2 or
I
something.
think that's pretty representative of where Soju was at in that point in time. Listen, I don't know if you saw his Xayah game. That was maybe the most tilting game of TFT I've ever witnessed in my entire life. It was like...
Oh, day one had a Xayah game where as soon as I didn't hit Xayah 1 until 6-1.
Is that still a Xayah game?
It still was. But I'm just saying this Soju guys complain about his Xayah not hitting Xayah 2 until like 5-6. I didn't hit Xayah 1 until 6-1.
That is wild.
I don't. And that's also level 8 with Infinite Gold, but whatever.
Yeah. Sometimes it just happens like that. I don't know. I will say I personally really liked the format. Jirachy, did you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I know when Sherman was polling for feedback on Twitter, someone, it might have been Makes and a couple other people brought up kind of like keeping 12 games, but like taking like top 6 after 10 and then have like 7 through 14 play 2 more games for the last 2 spots.
I thought that was interesting.
Something like that, or like some number having like those last 2 games be like quote unquote last chance. And then you don't have like a sea of like 16 players who can't make it, who are all just playing 2 games for no reason. Yeah. But you still have 12 games to get to the finals.
Yeah,
I think that'd actually be a really good idea. And then you still get a kind of like 6 game sample sizes per day, and then you have a lot to learn from going into day 2.
Yeah, it lowers the variance, but it doesn't lower the quality of the lobbies, because I mean, like Rain is saying, like, when there's a player in your final game that is just saying, I want to leave on 3-2 and play Valorant, like there's something to be said about that. But
okay, but that guy top 3 that game, like he was legitimately high rolling so hard. What the
Soju top 3? You're saying that game?
Yeah, like he was like, I think he was literally AFK. Like he literally left on like 3-2 and DM'd me on Discord for some reason. He actually went third that game. So
that's a Soju. All right, well, let's see. Before we move on to, because I know we've definitely gotten a lot of takes about Set 8. We don't have any takes about Summit yet. I definitely would love to have anybody call in about Summit. I know Showtime is here, actually. If Showtime wants to come in and have a call about Summit campaigning, because I personally have quite a few thoughts on the quality of campaigns we've seen for Summit. So I'm super down to talk about that. We can just kind of touch on this briefly before we start taking callers, is that China won Worlds for the 3rd time in a row. And not only that, had 3 players in the top 8. So I think there's something to be said about China. I don't know.
There is one thing to be said. China is really fucking good.
They're really good. They're really good at TFT. And you know, it's funny because in set 4, we thought they were so bad. Like, I don't know how, I mean, maybe this was me, but I definitely heard this in certain circles when we saw China playing in set 4 and it was just full greed, like completely open, and then like only prioing fortune and playing for like that pure win out style, and so many of them flamed out. I don't think any of them made top 8 in set 4, if I remember correctly. And then they suddenly come out of nowhere and win back to back to back world championships. It's actually so nasty to see China just dominating TFT. And I think it's actually really good for the game, though. I think it's good to see a region able to dominate, because it does show that when you have a lot of people playing and you're taking the game seriously, that putting the resources into it makes your region more consistent. So I think it kind of dispels the high variance of TFT to show that, well, if you have a large group of people who are just better than the rest, they will on average win out more than everybody else, you know?
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of skill involved in TFT. At the same time, I will also argue that there is a lot of variance in that, because like for example, I think Kutsu was rated as like in a lot of circles as like the best CM player coming in, and then I think they went like dead last or something. They won.
They went 15th.
15th.
Oh,
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now.
yeah, I know in the end they went 15th, but on day one they went like dead last or something. So like for example, if you just take like a small amount of sample size, like even 10 games isn't that much bigger than 5, but if you look at the 5-game sample size, the player who was rated like as the best CM player coming in went dead last in 5 games. So there's definitely like a lot of variance, but at the same time your skill also affects a lot of it, and being a lot better can definitely increase your chances of like making final lobby, which is why we see so many CM players there, I think.
I think there's something to be said, and we've talked about this on the show before. There's something to be said about kind of widening that target, right? And I think we do that, for instance, by talking about regional strength. How did China perform at Worlds? How did North America perform? Because when you are kind of sending up your best against the rest, your 10-game sample size suddenly becomes 40 when you look at all the North American reps. And I think that's a really fun way to kind of measure TFT. And it's also one of the reasons why I think that team events in particular are really cool, and also really easy to digest compared to singles events. One of the reasons why I think Summit is going to be a lot of fun for people. Now, I know we have people waiting in the queue. So let me see, actually, which one are we bringing on first? A lot of people talking about set 8. Okay, Lawrence, forgive me. I'm going to switch up the order of this. But we're going to start bringing in our first caller. All right, Slick Rick is here. Slick Rick, why don't you tell us where you're calling from and what do you want to talk about? Oh, they can't hear.
We can't hear Slick.
No. It's on my end. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna fix this. Jirachy, Rain, you take over. You listen to Slick Rick and respond, and I'll fix the audio issues.
Okay. Sorry, could you go over your take again?
And those are providing you with those kind of resistances that you need for a magic comp, right? And then you look at defenders, and again, they're all frontline units. You don't really have kind of these units that are tied into, I guess, backline units. I don't know. I'd like to hear your takes on it too, but yeah.
Wait, can someone give, you two respond. I'll figure out what the take was. What's the TLDR of this?
I need a TL.
Most flexible and exciting sets when it comes to the competitive circuits. I'm rambling, I know.
So for chat, TLDR it's the most, there was a lot of weird side, but TLDR is that it's going to be the most competitive and exciting set yet. And I'm going to preface all my takes with I have played 0 games of PvE because, I was kind of prepping for a different set.
I've played enough that I think so my hot take is that the set is supposed to promote flex play and be the most flexible. It is going to do that. However, for people who have hard force styles like me, we will find a way. And here's the thing, because hard forcing isn't just hard forcing the same 7 units unless you are a water gun one trick right now. Guess what the fuck I'm doing on live. People that one trick are still gonna find variations. That's what that's what DQA did. So I think this is a good take because of how flexible the set is going to be. I think from what I played, the set is going to be super flexible. Also, coming from my end of being a hard forcer, the hard forcers still have quite a bit to work with. And is it a little harder to with the hero augments? Sure, but with how much flexibility there is, it's going to promote some of the skill expression of the hard forcers of finding the variations of their one trick or yeah, like just like finding adaptations to maybe the game doesn't give you an ideal hero augment. Um, I think every playstyle benefits from the hero augments. And from the threats, like the flowchart style. Oh, you find a good hero augment. Now you have a line to commit to, and you have some threats to play around and maybe splash in. That flexibility. It's being able to flex around a couple units isn't like true flex, but I think it's still a valuable part of the game. And for all these threats, especially having carry threats, I've seen like Belveth do really well, and having that flexibility of having some of these units that you just know they're good and you can just splash them in even as carries. Literally every playstyle I think benefits. I think there's a lot, not so much benefits, but promotes skill expression. That hero augments promote skill expression no matter what playstyle you're playing. And for that reason, like every competitive player falls somewhere on that spectrum of hard forcer. In the middle, you have flowchart, and on the other end, you have flex. It's I think so far the mechanic is just a good mechanic for the game, and if it's a good mechanic for the game, it's going to be really good for competitive.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think like when I think of what a one trick means, I think this set in particular may adjust kind of like where the goal line is of a one trick. And I think that's kind of the point. It sounds like that we're, feeling in a similar vein here, Jirachy, that like a one trick doesn't mean that you're playing the one comp over and over again. That's what you were saying before.
Well, you play the one comp, but you don't play the same exact units.
Yeah,
you
sure,
have
you don't-
variations. Yeah.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is typically I think when people think one trick, it's like you end up in a very similar end game board, but it's how you got there that makes you unique. What my thought is, I actually feel like a one trick may actually have to change the goalpost even more this set, where it may just be, oh, I'm a Viego main, and so I play these X number of Viego lines really, really well, and I make that decision based on my hero augment, something like that. I mean, it probably just means you have to widen your general like trait tree a little bit more, where like you are now playing Viego in any of the Oxforce comps, where you're playing the mech variation, or you're playing whatever it is. I don't know set 8 all that well yet, to be honest, but I do think that we're probably gonna have to shift the goalpost on what we consider a one trick, because in my opinion, and I'm saying this without seeing how it all plays out, it could be completely wrong, I personally think that this may actually be the nail in the coffin for the pure hard forcer. I don't know. And I think if anyone's going to prove me wrong, it would be Talon Girl herself in this call. It would be Jirachy to actually go and show that hard forcing is still alive. But in my opinion, I would be surprised to see hard forcing be nearly as successful as it's been in the past.
I totally agree. I think it's going to be harder. I think the best hard force players are still going to have success, but it is going to
they're good
deter.
players.
Yeah, I think at the competitive level, the people who are more like hard forcey are still going to hard force. I think if Milk is going to win set 8 regionals, he's going to win it off hard forcing, because that is what Milk does best. And I think he is the best hard forcer in NA, maybe the world. And that is not going to change, and he is still going to find success. He is just going to have to widen the scope a little bit of what hard forcing means.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Rain, I know you probably have not. Have you seen set 8 at all? Like, have you seen the units or anything yet?
I've decent amount of exposure to set 8, because the Lead of the Worlds is actually really hard to find practice. Because like the CN players aren't streaming anymore, and they take down their VODs. Or some of them would stream. Like Shingo was streaming, but then he took on all his VODs, so I couldn't study him. And the World Champs weren't going on a lot of the time, so and I refused to fucking play live on a different patch to study for Worlds. So I actually spent like a reasonable amount of time just like doing nothing and like watching friends play set 8.
Are there any units or traits in particular that stood out to you that you really want to play?
Oh, I mean, I'm so happy that there are freaking AP carries. Like, what the fuck? I'm
Oh
okay.
yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
you would not know this going to Worlds, but like I like playing AP way more than I like playing AD. I'm not sure that's still going to be true because I've had like one set where I've just like straight up not played any AP at all, or like not lean towards AP at all because it's so bad to lean AP.
yeah.
But there's AP units. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I will say
And
from my experience, that's like the best thing about set 8 because I'm always been like a very heavy flex AP player, and you have infinite options this set. And whoever said we love Fiddlesticks 3 with 3 Archangels, that's correct. That is absolutely correct.
So you're happy to have AP back. With Jirachy, did you find your DGen comp yet?
I'm still working on it. I've been told Camille is good, although I I cannot when I pull people and ask for 2-cost rerolls, I pulled Twitter and I got like Camille XDD, Camille Pepe laugh. I'm like, I don't know if I can trust y'all. I
Okay,
played a little bit of Yasuo. It seems okay.
Ramkev nearly
Yeah.
beat my 3-star Jax with Camille reroll. It actually was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I feel like chat's gonna think it's lame, but I think Jax is really cool. I love
Jax is very cool. I
I'm such a sucker for these units that are just big, beefy units that are just smacking people. Like set 2 Olaf, set 4 Shyvana, best units that TFT has ever seen. Jax is like exactly what I want in a TFT unit. So it actually really sucked that he was so broken off the start of PBE because that's all I wanted to play. But it was just contested in every single lobby. I mean,
and the one game you finally get to play him, you got like 8 people down your throat about.
Yeah, but then
yeah,
but then it just means that Jax went first, second, third, and fifth. Like Jax is like that crazy. But I don't know. I mean, I haven't really played. I haven't played enough set 8 to have a super strong read on how healthy the competitive side of it will be. I think in theory, I completely agree, though. It seems like there's a lot of skill expression. To me, it sounds like I actually think when there's a ton of skill expression, like super, super high skill expression, it actually means that we're going to have more variance in tournament than normal, because when it's kind of lower skill expression, the edge kind of manifests itself earlier on, so you can kind of see who has a head start on what is clicking and what's working. But when the skill expression is super, super high, everybody is just kind of climbing because it's so balanced that no one has a super clear edge. At least that's how it works in my head. I don't know if that actually makes sense. But I could actually see a world where it is super healthy competitively. And because of that, we're actually seeing more variance when we're used to, when we're unable to find out who like the clear number one is, because the edge is not as obvious as it was in other sets.
Yeah. I think the one thing I'm kind of interested in, this is probably like a separate take on its own, but I'm kind of interested because it's only been on today about the stage damage going up. Have you guys seen that or have any thoughts on that?
I heard about that. I have to play the game. I think it means that if open fort into win streak the rest of the game is good, it's going to be really good because you're not taking any more damage in stage 2, and when you're pummeling the lobby, you're pummeling just that even one extra damage. Part of open forting, you're either going for a win out or you're going for hammering. You're going for a win out either because your comp spikes so hard that you just win as soon as you hit, or you're winning out by just pummeling the rest of the lobby. And for a lot of the past for a lot of the past few sets, there hasn't been a comp really that you auto open for it, and then as soon as you hit, you win out. So it's mostly been you open for it because you want to get to a position where you can pummel the lobby and win out and top 4 off that. And so that style of you just want to be up the lobby as hard as possible so no one else can outcap you. If there's a comp where you want to do that play style is going to be better, I think. Other than that, I don't think it changes that much. If the player damage was so low that think that games were going that long, it just means that it just means that boards are going to cap a little bit lower in general, but it's just going to be I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah, because I think I saw like some of the reasonings they gave is they said like people were hitting, these 3-star 4 costs and 5 costs way too often. And um, I think mainly I'm interested, like what you were talking about, how it's going to affect like these early game boards, whether it's going to become most effective to always try and play strongest board, or whether, these open forting strategies are still going to even be viable, getting beaten down that hard or not. But yeah.
Yep. Well, Slick Rick, we are going to move on so we can get a couple more callers in, but we appreciate your calls. Or anything you wanted to shout out before you go?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to give a shout out to the fundraiser for the Club Q massacre. Go to www.coloradogives.org/donate. As far as I know, that is the only uh like certified donation in a way to help support those victims. So give if you got it.
All right. If you want to put that URL in chat too, that'd be super helpful.
Yeah,
so we
sure.
can kind of track that. All right. But Slick Rick, thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time.
All right, sounds great. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Let's just move straight into our next caller because I know it's another set 8 caller, and then we'll move on to a new topic. All right. Clay is here. I believe it's pronounced Clay, or is it Clee?
It might just be.
Close enough.
What is it?
CLE.
Oh, CLE. It's just the letters.
Just
All
the
right.
letters.
Well,
Yeah,
CLE
simple
is
enough.
here. CLE, where are you calling from, and what do you want to talk about?
CLE stands for Cleveland. So, I'm here in Cleveland, Ohio. And I have 2 takes for you. One is about Worlds and one is about Set 8 and TFT in general. Which would you like first?
Let's do I think we're only going to have time for one of them. So
Okay.
let's do Worlds, because that way Rain can kind of chime in.
We
as
just
well.
did a set 8 take, yeah.
Yeah, let's do Worlds.
Makes sense to me. So my World's take is, I watched, shout out to Don't Talk If You Don't Know, watched that last week to prepare for Worlds, just to get some takes and some overview. And one of the things that I noticed, especially knowing the results now, is that many of the regions that were ranked the lowest happened to perform. Shout out Latin America and Japan for getting 3 of the 8 finalists. And then some of the best ones, other than China, because obviously they're cracked, some of the best ones didn't perform well whatsoever. So what do you guys think about underrating regions to a point where you count them out completely?
All right, Rain, I'm going to hand this off to you, and I'm going to present it this way. LATAM and Japan. Underrated or overperformed?
Okay, so I know you asked me directly about LATAM. I'm going to preface with this about EU. I actually don't know how good EU was coming in. It was very hard to judge. So, I think they might have underperformed. But LATAM and Japan, for Japan, I believe that Tidal is a very good player. I believe that Japan is a very weak region, and Holly echoes that sentiment. For the record, Holly went dead last, so even if you just average Japan out, it comes down to around below average. despite the fact that Tidal went second, I believe that Tidal is a very good player though, but that the region as a whole is very weak. LATAM, if any of you saw I didn't really make them super public, but my pre-world rankings, I had LATAM players closer and near to the bottom. And I know they performed well, very, very, very well day 2, and nearly all the LATAM players popped off. Argentina is apparently too cracked that day 2. I still don't necessarily think they were the strongest players. I very much I have nothing against those players, but I just think that their plays were not the best. And just looking at their spots, looking at their optimization, even including the last day, I disagreed with a lot of it. And I think that in part their success might have been just them high rolling.
It's not impossible. It's definitely not. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's unlikely. I mean, pretty much everyone has to either execute their game plan perfectly and still have the stars aligned for them, or just blatantly high roll. I mean, you talked about it before that the game that Soju wasn't even trying is one of the games where he performed best on day 2. I mean, there is a certain element of Hyrule hands you things, whether you're asking for them or not, and whether you even realize how much of a high roll it is. That's just like how it works sometimes. And I think it is important to know, like, people will say that in-houses, scrims don't matter. I also don't think it's really fair to just blatantly ignore the fact that the Latin American players did really struggle in these in-houses. And I know, I mean, actually, I'm curious to know from you, Rain, how serious did you take those in-houses?
I mean, the main thing was I didn't actually get to play that many. I played like 10 total. The time zone sucked for me. And that was a problem amongst like literally every single NA player except for Soju, because he can just like full-time degen TFT. I took them relatively seriously. I had like a 4.5 average, but I also think my sample size was a bit low. But like, oh, actually, I played more than 10 because like in the 2 days leading up, we started playing on tournament realms. I probably played around 20, and I think my average at the end was like after we switched to tournament realm, I think I averaged like a 3.8 or something. I don't really remember though. But the placement isn't necessarily what I'm the most concerned about. Like I am like I do care about that a little bit because my take on it before regionals was the same thing. I think you can be a good player and have bad average placement in scrims because you can be limit testing, you can be taking alternate lines. I don't think you can be a bad player and like have good average placement in scrims though. So you can look to like some of the top performers with a reasonable amount of sample size to determine who like will probably perform well. But at the same time, it's hard to like point to people with bad average placements to say that like they're gonna be bad. For example, Juanmia did not make it to Treasure Dragon in a single one of my games. I played like 6 games with that guy. That guy did not make it to Treasure Dragon a single time. But that didn't mean that I thought he was bad. I was pretty sure he was limit testing because, for example, CN as a region was performing quite well in scrims. It's just that guy literally did not make it to Treasure Dragon. The reason that I had a lower opinion of some of the Argentinian players, though, was that just like looking at their spots in games, just like observing their itemization, or for example, roll timings, I really disagreed with a lot of it. It's stuff like going level 8 to play to roll for Olaf when when you don't have a warrior +1 or something that like makes you want to like roll for Yasuo or something. It's stuff like the itemization they choose, like making two ice cream cones over a blue buff on their Kaisa. It just like adds up over time, and like perhaps it was just that I was looking at them when they were not like playing their best, when they didn't, or like they were completely in them testing, but like it's just the type of mistakes that like don't really seem like limit testing, but rather like a fundamental disagreement on how we play TFT. So, and that was my reasoning for rating Argentina as a whole, or LATAM. Honestly, you can just call Argentina because apparently Argentina just like dominates LATAM, whatever.
Yeah, Argentina is to LATAM as France is to EU, apparently. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. So
Jirachy.
I personally rated them a little bit lower. But it was cool to see them pop off, and like even though I might have rated them a little lower, I'm sure they're all nice people.
Definitely.
Yeah, okay. I don't know how to end this up. I feel like I'm just flaming them. My bad.
You are 100% flaming them now.
Follow up for all the normies like me. With pick'ems being a thing, and if these scrims don't really matter that much, and it's a high roll game with lots of variance, how in the world are we supposed to predict who's going to win?
Oh, you're never gonna know.
You literally have no fucking idea. I'm so sorry.
There's like actually just no way. Because the players who actually watch these VODs, everyone said EU was going to pop off at Worlds.
Okay, anyone who said EU was going to pop off should have known better. It's fucking EU.
Okay, I think my pick'ems are actually pretty good.
Oh, mine were horrible. Mine were so bad.
Like
I said Double was going to win.
UCN players in. I think I had like one EU player top 8. So apparently I overrated them. Apparently.
How do you actually want? Is there a point total from your pick'ems? How do you check that? I should have done this not on air, but now I'm curious. I want to see, like, did they actually
I'm curious, like,
rank people?
How do you?
Do you want me to talk about my take on?
Yeah, you go for it. Go for it,
Yeah.
Jirachy.
I think this has always been my opinion of the like smaller regions. I think like for a lot of smaller regions, like the server as a whole is definitely weaker, and this especially comes from me and my experience playing over on OCE. The region as a whole, like the ladder is so much weaker, but the players at the top actually tend to be able to go toe to toe with the rest of the world. There's usually just enough that like they hit each other and they talk to each other a lot, and they still like keep up even if their solo queue experience isn't quite as good as it is over like NA or over in EU. So like the top of the regions are generally able to keep up with like NA and Korea and CN. And I think I didn't watch the Argentinian or the Brazilian or Japanese players too closely, but I think kind of the same applies to them. I think from playing on the Latin America South server a little bit, I think it's pretty similar to EU of like the region and like the ladder is definitely weaker, but the players at the top are maybe not necessarily just as good, but are comparable. And that's why we're not seeing them just like go dead last like you see over in like League of Legends, where like Latin America is generally not expected to remotely keep up with Korea or China. Frankly, none of the world is, but over in TFT, because like the top of the regions are all like are all comparable. Equal isn't quite the right word, but because like I think the top of the regions are comparable basically, even if and depending on who they send, basically just depending on who they send, there can be some variance, although I think like we can agree at this point, like China's the best region, Korea, North America aren't that far behind, and somewhere in that mix, OC, Japan, Latin America. I think
you didn't even say EU.
And then I think Brazil and EU are the weakest regions.
Oh man,
just straight up.
I want to bounce off of that real quick, Jirachy, because you said something that actually really stood out to me, because it reminds me, when you're saying the top is pretty similar, it makes me think of in the Don't Talk If You Know episode that Dan and Bryce put together, where they had people ranking not only where people would put the regional strength, but also from the regional representative, how strong do you think your representatives are compared to the average of your field? And Japan and Latin America both said, we're basically sending the best of our best. Which makes sense, because if we're saying that, one, TFT is a game that requires skill and does reward the best players on average, that if the best of the best are as good or similarly skilled to some of the best of a larger region, then they would have a significantly larger edge against a field of softer players, right? In a softer region. If Title's just as good as the best of North America, but he's playing in an easier region, he's probably going to win regionals, I don't know, 8 times out of 10, some crazy number like that. So I think that checks out in my head. I can get behind that.
Yeah, I think from what I was paying attention to from OCE, the reps they sent, I think were definitely like, from what I know, like OCE definitely like wasn't upset about their representatives at Worlds. So it's all, at the end of the day, who you're sending to Worlds, it just matters who's at the top of your region. And when the top of the regions are comparable, you get a lot of these mixed results like we've seen basically every Worlds now.
Yeah, and it makes sense that it's not uncommon for us to see the best of the best from these smaller regions making top 8 every single Worlds. It's not an outlier. It is consistent. All right, CLE, I think we're going to move on to our next caller, but before you go, is there anything you'd like to shout out?
I want to shout out Aegis Esports for creating new formats and trying season stuff for TFT. It's a great place to learn and grow in all of the tournament-based TFT formats, so shout out to them.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go, Aegis. All right, CLE, thank you so much for calling. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.
All right, now before we bring in our next caller, I want to take a quick break to just show off what I'm wearing right now. We have the official Hyrule Radio hoodie. You can actually see there's a link in chat where you can see the Hyrule Radio shop. There's a couple different items there. As per Jirachy's approval, we're currently working on the Juicy inspired Just Hit sweatpants. So keep an eye out for those as well. 100% Jirachy approved. All right, let's move on to our next caller. All right, Torque is here. Torque, where are you calling from and what would you like to talk about?
Hey, how's it going on, everyone? I guess, okay, on ladder, my name is Makiro.
Oh, hi,
Makiro.
Maki.
Okay, yeah. I've seen your name.
Hey, Rain. Hey, Gangly.
Hello, hello.
So my take is that, so you guys were talking about China before set 4, and everyone thought they were on the weaker side, right? My take is that there's a very good chance China was the best region even before they won any tournament or international tournament. Because, well, I was watching the set 3 and 4 Chinese broadcast back then, and there was something they were repeating is that the rest of the world plays at an entirely different tempo than China. And, you know, like China, they're playing in a very isolated environment, right? And their play style is completely different from the rest of the world. While the rest of the world is mostly like the soju kind of people, or not soju, socks, they will slam items and play best boards. And when China, if there's only one Chinese player in the lobby, this person is very likely to ball forward, because if they are greeting econ and rolling their goal for a spike, they're just gonna take infinite early game and then die out, right? And every single time they were saying if there were more Chinese players in the single lobby, all the Chinese players are likely to do well. And, you know, it's easy to think it was copium at the time, right? But, I mean, we're thinking about this now, it makes sense. So I guess there was also something, I don't know if you guys remember Light YGO from set 4 when he took rank 1 in NA. So he was saying Chinese player were greeting the items early game. So say you had a tier, you had a glove, they are always greeting for blue buff IE for Akali and just commit Akali right there. Maybe that was correct in their region, because I think their meta is more or less like much refined. But we would just slam a Hodge and go 9. And they were calling us and slamming items and greeting econ that way greedy. But we call them slamming, or not, we would call them not slamming items and not greed econ greedy. And I think that's the difference between the rest of the world and China.
So what I'm hearing is that for us to defeat China in set 8, we have to get every other region together and determine what the anti-Chinese meta is. So that every time that they're in a lobby without other Chinese players, they just bot 4.
I'm not sure about that. The reason is that I think after set 4 they adapted, and that's why they're doing so incredibly well now.
I think I definitely agree with you on like the playstyle stuff, but I think saying that as reasoning for China was the best this whole time is incorrect, because I think even when your playstyle is different, you still have to be able to you can succeed in a lobby that is not your playstyle as long as you make certain adaptations. For set 4 regionals going in, I was talking to this guy who was coaching me, and we were saying like it's a very greedy meta. Like people are really greeding and trying to play for Slayers and trying to play for these super cap boards. And I knew I wasn't as good at that style, so I said, "Fuck it! I'm normally a pretty aggressive player. I'm going to play even more stupidly aggressive, save as much HP as possible, and play for top 4s that way." And I did pretty well, all things considered, even though like I definitely wasn't as good as these players, like as as a skill cap, I just not necessarily like meta, but playstyle wise, I had a good enough read that I was able to get placements where I wouldn't have if I just tried playing their style and tried playing the like standard play style.
It
For-
does. Oh, go. Yeah,
so-
keep going.
But for China to have their own style and just completely bomb with it, that means they weren't the best region. Just straight up, they didn't make the necessary adaptations. After set 4, though, when they made the necessary adaptations, that's when they are the best region. The best region, I don't think you can't really say what the best region is in just completely out of context. You have to take it into context of like how good you are at adapting. And if you're not able to adapt to certain play styles and certain game tempos, like you can't really be the best. Now that they have made these adaptations, they are the best. Does that make sense?
There is this really interesting like discussion that's kind of coming up here about, because I agree with what Jirachy is saying, but at the same time, I also do feel like, and I hadn't considered this before, that there's actually like a home field advantage in TFT that has never really been talked about before, right? That at Worlds, a lobby that does have 3 Chinese players should, in theory, at least back then, when people aren't adapting, should actually favor the Chinese players based on what they're comfortable playing, right? And so if we had sent 2 North American players to play in a tournament against 6 Chinese players in China, or it could be in NA, it's online, doesn't matter, but in a lobby of 6 other Chinese players, then the North American players might actually perform significantly worse, right? Because they're just not playing that meta. I guess what you're saying, Jirachy, though, is that the only thing that matters for being able to call yourself the best in the world would be your ability to adapt in that new environment, right? If the North American player does adapt and starts playing more greedy, then they do have the right to say that they're the best.
Start playing still. You can still play an aggressive style. You just have to you have to make an adaptation some way, and that's going to depend on the lobby, whether it's saying I'm going to be just even more aggressive and know that there are there's a couple other aggressive players in the lobby, so it's not like I'm the only one, or adding like that little bit of extra greed into your playstyle where you're still saving HP, but you're able to cap out your board almost as high, but not quite as high as the rest of the lobby. So TFT in general, I think there's a case to be made. It is just a game of adaptation to what the game throws at you, not just what the game itself throws at you in terms of like what units you get, what items you get, but like what the rest of the lobby's doing. How do you adapt to what you are given in all facets?
Rain, did you have any thoughts you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely succeed with multiple styles. Just looking at like the NA reps we sent, I think that we all had very different styles. I can't say for sure for Kyvix because he didn't stream, so I also didn't study his regional VODs because my eyes legitimately hurt looking at his screen. I tried. I swear I tried studying his regional VOD. It was not possible.
Someone had a theory that the only reason that wait, what was it? Jirachy, it was in my Discord. Do you remember? It was someone saying, actually it might have been you, that someone was saying the only reason that Kyvix is ranked lower on Don't Talk If You Don't Know power rankings is because his stream quality is so bad that no one will watch him.
Exactly. No one wants to watch him, so no one knows how good he is. Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna talk about Kyvix's playstyle, but I think that Amda, Soju, and I all had very different playstyles, and like to some degree we all succeeded. Okay, sure. The other 2 didn't make top 8, but they still put up like a pretty respectful performance, and like they definitely could have made top 8 if like things had just gone a little bit different. I was definitely the greediest player of them. I think I was probably like somewhere in the top 3 of the greediest people in the tourney, probably. Whereas like Soju was probably like in the top 20th percentile of like the most tempo oriented players in the tourney. Yeah, and to some degree we all did well, and I think that like definitely you can succeed with different styles. you obviously you have to adapt to some degree to your lobby, and it's something that like I actually heard the CN players talk about. I think Tanner, on DTYK mentioned something about how the CN players were like bot reviewing together, and mentioning how in certain lobbies they would need to be a little more aggressive as well. So yeah, I think multiple styles can succeed as long as you make your own adaptations, lobby per the meta. And I agree with Jirachy where like I didn't watch Set 4 Worlds because I didn't know competitive TFT was a thing until Set 6. But it's very likely that SCN couldn't adapt at that point, that they weren't actually the best region, I think.
I love the discussion. We actually, it might have been when Jirachy was on the last time, which was the last episode that we talked about it. I love the idea of talking about play styles in TFT and being able to put players in these boxes to say, like, we know that Rainplosion and Kyvix are these players that are high first place rate, right? They're always willing to go for the risk and being able to cap out their board a little bit higher at the cost of maybe going 8th a handful more times. And on the flip side, you said it, like Soju is this tempo player. I know I talked about in my Discord not too long ago that Soju's top 1 rate was below 8% across all competitive TFT in set 7 and 7.5. He had a pretty decent top 4 rate. It wasn't amazing, but his first place rate, the average is usually about 20%. Based on what I saw from the field, both Rain and Kyvix were both significantly ahead of that. I believe Kyvix was about 27 and Rain was maybe 25, somewhere around there. Definitely both above the pack. And Soju, like you're saying, honestly, maybe to the point of just leaving points on the table because of how tempo oriented he plays. But definitely one of those players that has not been greeting as much as other players in the field. And I love this conversation. I think it makes the game so much more digestible. And I do hope that that's something that we can explore a bit more as we continue in competitive TFT. But Maki Roll, I think we talked a lot about what you had brought up. Do you have any follow up? And if not, you want to just give your shout outs?
Yeah, I guess my follow up would be. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought.
You're good. Well, if you don't actually have another, like if you have anything you wanted to ask to follow up, you can. If not, we can just move on to the next caller.
Oh, right. I guess what I would say is that I think China was the first region that really prioritized streaking like very, very heavily. So I don't think NA necessarily did that. Everyone was trying to push for a win streak. And, not that many people was going like, I'm 5 loss, I'm 60, but we're chilling. But China kind of pushed this idea that streaking is really, really important. But at the same time, they're taking, from LYGO's visit, they're taking our like method of slamming Hodge early game to win streak and build best board, save HP, that kind of stuff. They're putting that into their game. I think it's really amazing that each different region we're studying from each other and getting better together.
Absolutely.
I guess that would be my follow-up.
Yeah, love that. And I think it's important to recognize that you don't need to be the best to develop useful tools. And you don't need to be the best to help the best become the best. That's like the whole idea of coaching in general, right? So I don't think I agree with the take that they were secretly the best in the region. It doesn't sound like Jirachy or Rain agree either. But that said, I think we can all agree that even in set 4, China was affecting the meta, and in fact, it probably was this training arc of them to realize that they were missing pieces, even if they had very valuable pieces in their isolated environment. There were things that North America and Europe and these other regions were doing that they would then need to bring to the table, and they did that to win the next 3 World Championships. So I think that's all we're going to do on this take. We do have another guest so that we can move on to talking about Summit. But Maki Roll, is there anything you want to shout out before you go?
Yeah, thanks everyone. I guess the only shout out I would give is Rainplosion. You're a beast.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, Hard.
All right, take care. Have a great night.
Yep. Bye.
Gangly, that point you brought up about you don't have to be the best to like help the best and what. Like, basically that, I'm just sitting here thinking, isn't that literally what I do now? I'm hard stuck master, and I'm still chilling with all these, like, with all these challenger players and, like, giving takes, and people listen to me. I'm just like, oh, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because I feel like at the end of the day, I mean, an extra voice of critical thinking is never going to hurt you, right? Especially like if you're a
Yeah.
top player, you're confident in your choices already, that I don't think another thought is going to, someone else's thoughts are going to diminish your chances. If anything, there's just a chance that
Yeah.
they bring something up that you hadn't already thought of yourself.
It's all about
Yeah.
it's like different perspectives, and even there's like there's so many different perspectives in TFT, like all up and down, like high elo, that even someone like me right now, like I'm hard stuck masters right now, but also like we know that I used to be really good, and I do casting and I study the game a lot, so like I know what I'm talking about to some extent.
What were you going to say, Rain?
Oh, I'd like to say that like I think I'm actually a great example of this, where I guess my own personal shout out. Like in case you don't know, Haru is one of my study partners in set 7. And throughout set 7, I actually studied with Haru and a lot of other players who weren't necessarily like literally the best players in NA in TFT. But I still learned a lot from them because everyone else has like has a different perspective to offer. And like the extra look in, the extra voice, the extra perspective, like can always be helpful. Or not, okay, maybe not always. If you are on a comparable skill level, can be helpful. I'm sorry, I do not actually want.
I think Rainplosion is asking me to
keep
coach her for
back to
set
you.
8.
No,
She's
no, no,
doing
no, no,
it.
no,
She's
no.
asking me
No, no, no.
live. You got it. You and me, Summit coaching coming in.
Oh god.
All right. Well, on that topic, let's talk a little bit more about Summit. And we do have a very special guest who's going to be joining us. I know he doesn't have any of his patented hot takes, but Clear is here. Clear is here and joining us to talk a little bit more about this Summit thing that's going on. Clear, for anyone who doesn't know, was one of the people that was campaigning for Summit. Unfortunately, did bow out and did not make it into the actual voting stage. But Clear, where are you calling from? How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Hello everyone. I'm Clear and I'm from Toronto.
Oh, another Toronto player. I actually didn't know that. Very nice to have you on, Clear. All right, let's talk Summit. I don't know how closely the three, well, obviously Clear followed it closely. I don't know how closely the two of you, Jirachy and Rain, followed the vote-in section of Summit. Were you two following that?
I
Oh,
was, yeah.
Yeah, I actually like in the chat that Claire was brainstorming stuff, and I was actually a Clear supporter.
Oh, okay. I will say
Until
I
Clear time supporter.
I liked Clear and Showtime. I think they did the best job campaigning. I was, unfortunately for them, I was definitely a Pokygom and Voidsin supporter. I have to rep my Tri-State boys. But after Pocky and Void, I did really want Clear and Showtime to make it. I think that they worked the hardest out of anyone on this campaign. So Clear, actually, why don't you talk a little bit to us about what it was like campaigning for Summit? Because this is something that's brand new to the TFT scene.
Well, I mean, I think the first thing we realized is that because there's gonna be some noise, like we're like fixing like a water heater or something. So there might be some noise in the background.
All right.
But sort of the first thing we noticed about Summit is that no one like really cared. Like even if you look at the vote totals, like the vote totals are like completely like abysmal. There's like probably like 0.01% of people who are even like talking about Summit or like even like voting. So the first thing we realized is that like even if you promote yourself on Twitter, even if you promote yourself on Twitch, a lot of people are not really going to care, and like a lot of people are just not going to vote. And we sort of felt like the most effective way for us to get votes was just like straight up DM every single person we know and just get them to vote for us.
It's actually true. I mean, the first, because it was open for what, 4 days, I think, total before the first round of voting closed. The first 3 days, I did the math on it, and it was like it averaged about 40 votes per person in total, like per day. So if you were in the running and you as an individual were able to get 40 people to vote for you would have been on par with the rest of the field. It actually was very, very sad, in my opinion, to see how few people were actually voting. And maybe it is just because it was brand new, but I think when you're saying that the best way for you to campaign was just to ask people you know, I actually think that was just the best way to do it for you. The reality is it was not easy to vote. It was kind of it was like a weird system. A lot of people couldn't actually access their vote. So being able to walk through it with someone through like over DMs or on a phone call or whatever it may be was probably pretty effective. That said, I do think that there needed to be a bit more presence like online somewhere. I mean, nobody was streaming to like have a countdown to the actual voting ending. Milk was just, he happened to be streaming when the voting was ending, and was the sole reason why Pocky and Voisin made it in was because Milk was doing what everybody else who has ever made it into Summit through a different game has done, which is watching the voting screen and telling everybody in your stream chat to please vote for X person. I was really surprised to not see any stream. I know, Clear, I know you and Showtime aren't. Well, actually, do either of you stream? I actually don't know.
I don't know what Showtime, but I don't really stream that much outside of tournaments where you sort of have to stream. I feel like on stream I perform a lot worse, and I definitely think streaming is definitely like a skill you have to develop. And I just haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. It definitely makes sense. Jirachy, Rain, what were your thoughts on the general campaign incentives, or like the format of or whatever, the effort that people put into campaigning?
Oh, wait, actually, just one more thing. I just wanted to say, like, I think the reason why no one was really voting or like really cared about Summit is because like the actual voting portion compared to like the invited portion, it made up like a lot less of the actual like player list. So there's like 20 people invited, and like most of them, because they're already invited, they don't have to participate in the voting process. They don't even have to like understand what's happening. So like a lot of these players are not going to bother learning about how votes work, and they're not going to bother even talking about it on Twitter or talking about it on the stream. So I think if they had a lot more vote-in sort of slots, I think the entire process would, or like the entire experience would have been a lot different.
That makes sense to me. Jirachy, did you have any thoughts on the voting side?
Um,
Because this is all pretty new to you, right? Because you don't really follow Smash,
because
right?
I don't follow Smash at all. So like I vaguely knew like that the voting was a thing, but I didn't really have that many thoughts. My thoughts are a lot of the voting incentives were dancing, maybe a few too many. I can't wait for Pocky and Voidson to kiss, and Sox is falling into the stereotype of his son is his personality.
Can I just say, so literally when the voting starts, I immediately message Pocky and Void, and I'm like, listen guys, you have to come up with incentives, you have to stream, you have to tell people why to vote for you, and then like 2 hours later, there's this list of, we're gonna kiss on stream, and I'm like, this is not what I meant. This is absolutely not what I meant at all. But you know what? It's their campaign. They ran with it. They did great. Man, I did tell Showtime, I said, I want to see you eat a raw onion live on stream. And he said no. And you know what? Now Showtime's watching from home. So there you go. That's the answer right there.
Eat an onion, that's the key.
Rain, did you what did you think of the summit process?
I actually had a lot of takes on it. A lot of thoughts on it. So the first thing I have to talk about was that the vote totals are really low, but like I think it's been mentioned a lot in the chat. It is so fucking hard to vote. Like what the heck? I have like this sign-in process it's like trying to sign in for like some kind of like free trial or something. It's worse than that. You have to link your Discord, sign in, then you have to show your Discord on your profile, and then you have to collect a vote in order to vote instead of just like letting you vote. I don't know. I didn't really like the process of voting, and I think it was a like large barrier of entry for a lot of people.
On the flip side, the traditional voting process is actually purchase based. It's normally that you buy things from like the merch shop and then you get votes that way, or you buy a voting pass and then you get it that way.
Yeah.
So this is actually the first time I think they've ever done a free to enter voting. So just something to keep
Yeah,
in mind.
I was aware that like in previous like summits in Smash summits, I believe it was like monetary based, and that went towards like the prize pool for summit, right?
Mhm.
If I recall
Yeah, it
correctly.
did.
Yeah. The second thing I'd like to say is that it was actually really hard to root for people. Like I wanted Claire and Showtime to win, but it was very, very hard to root for them, because if you root for them, it also means that you're rooting directly against someone else. And like Claire brought this up, but because of like the very small this very small amount of people who were actually community voted, it like really felt like every single vote, like every single time you supported someone, every single vote you put towards someone was like a direct condemnation of someone else.
Mm.
Bill was actually really, really like really sad when Showtime dropped out, because he felt like his direct contributions towards
Pocky and Void.
Stocks specifically.
Oh, I see.
Because that's when Claire and Showtime dropped out. Like, were part of the reason, and he actually felt like really bad about it. And it was the same for me, because like I wanted Claire and Showtime to win, but like that also meant that I wanted Sox to not win, and like that's not what I really wanted either. So like rooting for anyone, frankly, was really hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just no way around it, unfortunately. I will say, and I think it makes sense because of what this event is, that like right now there are definitely influencers at the event, which makes sense. I think at some level we're always when it's a Riot event. I think this is a Riot event at least. I'm not exactly sure how it all works. I'm assuming it's at least Riot approved or something. I imagine they're always going to want high visibility, and that usually comes at the cost of influencers and not pure merit. So there's always going to be fewer spots in these cases for like the players that we think purely deserve it based off merit. That said, I mean, I don't know. I actually wonder if, going back to what Clear was saying, had there been more vote-in spots, I wonder if it wouldn't have felt that way. Because it really did come down to a one-on-one, right? Even when it was Pocky, like Sox, when it was Sox and Goobums and then Sox and DQA in the first round, like they were in the running, but by the end it really came down to you're either Team Pocky or your Team Showtime and Clear, or Pocky Void or Showtime and Clear, and there really wasn't that much middle ground, because at the end it just came down to that one-on-one, and that does feel a bit abrasive. Like it feels like you are against someone, but I do wonder if this is more of like an 8-person field or an 8-person race, where it's coming down to the last minutes, if it doesn't feel as divisive. And I'm not exactly sure. I will say that even with the Smash Summits, there is always a lot of heartbreak, unfortunately, with any sort of like campaigning and voting. It's just the nature of it. I don't know. Now, let's talk a little bit less about the voting side. And actually, Clear, I know I don't want to hold you hostage here. If you want to talk more about like the actual event itself, and you have opinions to talk about, more than happy to have you on the call as long as you want. If you want to hop off now that we're done talking about like the incentives and the voting side of it, though, it's up to you.
I'm done. Just stay and talk about whatever.
Cool. Yeah, let's do it. All right. So I did write down some of the things I know they're going to be doing. I'm not going to go through all the teams. I think a lot of people know the people that are going to be there. If you don't, you can check out Start GG and check out the Summit TFT page. Now, the cool thing about Summit, this is what I want to get some opinions on. On top of TFT, there's going to be a bunch of different side events, right? There's Mafia. There's a talent show, I think, and I think there's a cooking competition. Those are the ones, at least, that I've heard them talk about publicly. I'm assuming there may be.
Oh, I think I'm allowed to talk about it, but I can go through all the side events.
Oh yeah, let's do it. And then if you want to just follow up after, go through the side events, and then I want to hear which side event you think you're winning.
Okay, so the thing is that apparently like not everyone does every single side event. These TFT players like do not want to do anything. I signed up for every single event because like why not? But like looking at the signups, looking at these signups, like there's some events where there's only like 5 people signed up out of like 24. But events in order are I think there's a trivia game show, there's can a TFT player cook an omelet, there's the talent show, there's a partner, quiz show like how well do you know your partner, which means that I need to call up Affy sometime to like get to know him better. And then there's the Mafia.
What
to all the TFT stuff.
Talk me through. Wait, are they individual or are they with your teammates still?
Some of these are individual. Some of these are with your teammates. For example, the quiz show where you talk about your partner is obviously teammate based. The talent show can be individual or team. As far as I'm aware, I'm gonna be doing team with Affy's. See you there. But yeah, some of them are
did you
individual.
say what your talent is?
Oh, I don't know if.
Or you're not gonna leak? You can't leak it.
I don't know. I don't know if I want it to be a surprise or not, so I'm not gonna leak yet.
Can I ask? Are you two going to be performing the evolution of Dance Dance? Because that's what I told Appies to do. Oh, am I like? I think I might be like boomerang myself. Do people still know the evolution of Dance Dance? Right? This was like the most popular YouTube video for a very long time in like 2010.
I vaguely know what you're talking about.
Oh no, only vaguely. It's
very vaguely.
No, the chat is saying I'm old too now. Oh man. All right. Whatever.
Daniel, you're a boomer.
Oh, this is horrible.
Yeah, back in 2010, I was literally 9 years old.
Oh my gosh. What?
Same.
Wow. What happened to me? Asa says, how talented do we think we are? And now I know I'm old because Asa's the only one that knows what I'm talking about. Oh man, this is horrible. All right, well, whatever. No leak. Thanks for nothing. All I got out of that, I got to ask for a leak, and all I got out of it was being told
okay. We will be doing a performance. It will be a performance. I'll say that.
Okay. Is it a magic show?
No.
Oh man, nuts. Jirachy, if you were at Summit, do you know what your talent would be?
I feel like the lame answer is fly my trombone out.
Oh yeah, that would have been cool. That would have been cool.
I don't know whether that's lame or cool because it's literally what I'm getting a degree in, but it's also literally what I'm getting a degree in.
No, I think that's cool. I think that's super cool. I hope that somebody performs music live. I don't know if anyone is a musician that's actually going or if anyone sings. I would be so down. I love that. I love that stuff. I want to hear someone do karaoke. I don't know if they're doing karaoke at Summit, but I think having TFT players sing live on stream would be amazing.
Well, the problem right now is I don't think we even have enough people to do the talent show because all these other TFT players are flaking. The talent show is the least signed up for event by far.
No way. That's horrible.
Yeah, they should have gotten me out. I don't even know what the fuck I'd play on trombone. Just let me play something.
You just do that thing where you go like that. That's what I would do.
That was actually really good.
Thank you. I practice that all the time.
That was really good. Yeah.
It was like really good.
Yeah, I actually never mind. No, I'm not gonna make myself seem like more of a loser. Never mind. All right. Let's talk more about these side events. One of the things that I know they're doing is Mafia. You talked about that. Do you have any experience playing Mafia, Rain? How confident are you in your Mafia skills?
Oh, I've been training with this cool game called Among Us. Yeah.
Nice.
I'll whisper.
I hate Mafia, actually. I used to play a decent amount, just like with a friend group, and I'm the kind of person that if I'm guilty, I look guilty, but if I'm innocent, I also look guilty. I don't have like a good poker face, you know? Speaking of which, I see Asa complaining in chat that he has no talents. Asa, you should play heads up poker with someone who doesn't know how to play poker and then purposely lose. That's what I would do if I were you. I don't know. I feel like we're talking about Summit. Oh, wait, no. Last thing I actually do want to bring up the cooking competition. I know you mentioned that as well, Rain. Is this also one of the ones that people have to sign up for, or is it mandatory?
Yeah, it's okay. So actually, I figured out what it is. There are 2 events with cash prizes, and for some reason, all of those have the maximum reacts.
Wait, what did you just say?
There are 2 events with cash prizes, and for some reason, those are the ones with the most signups.
I wonder why.
Yeah, surprisingly. So is
And-
the cooking competition is one of them?
Cooking competition does not have cash prize, so therefore it has not as many signups.
I see. I see. That is a real bummer. Are you going to be cooking?
I'm down. I signed up for every event. There's probably gonna be like some events are like 8 people only, so I'm probably not gonna be in every event. But all of them sound really fun. Like even the ones where I'm just gonna be embarrassing myself in front of a live audience. So I'm down.
The actual format of the TFT portion is pretty interesting too. I don't know who's super familiar with it, but I know that it's teams of 2, and I'm assuming it's that your points are totaled. Is that how it works, Rain? Or Clear? Whatever it is, I don't know. I think it's fascinating that we're doing this teams of 2, but they're competing against each other in the same lobbies. Definitely something we haven't seen in a while. Didn't we? We did this for like the old school doubles events, right, Jirachy? Like in set 5, we ran doubles that way.
Before double up, there was a whole thing with what's it called? With the very first event I casted with Giant Slayer Lab Partners, where they were trying to do double up, and double up on Tournament Realm broke, so they had to revert to the old 2v2 v2 in solos format. So it was preset. It was preset 6. Yeah, it's a very old format that people don't like as much. But if you're doing like solos, and if you're kind of like separating people, and just they happen to be a team and their points combined, I think it's chill. If y'all are in the same lobbies, Godspeed.
No, I think they're always in the same lobbies.
They're always in the same lobbies. Okay.
From what I understand,
no idea.
Yeah, from what I understand, it is that you are always because I think it's going to be like a group stage. I don't know. I think it's a group stage where it's like going to be playing against the same people and your partner for X number of games, and that's like Group A, and then same thing Group B, Group C. I'm not 100% sure. This is kind of just what I've heard from here or there.
I think y'all should just play fucking double up, but that's just me.
Someone saying in the chat, did I not see the old doubles? I did. I do remember the old doubles, that back with like the Ramblin' Robin thing coming up. It's just, yeah, it's been a bit. And also I knew Jirachy was infinitely more familiar because of what they had done in set 5. Ace is bringing something up actually, with the value of actually being in the same lobby makes sense because you can talk through the game with each other. And this is something we saw back with the Mort Dog Madness event. Was that the end of set 6 or the beginning of set 7? I forget which one.
It was end of set 6.
End of set 6.
Yeah.
It was like a send-off tournament.
Yeah.
That tournament was really cool. I loved watching that. In particular, I remember watching the team of it was like Sox, Prestivan, Soju, I forget who else, but it was like that was a really cool tournament where you could actually hear the entire team talking to each other. And like that one, I remember watching Sox basically captain the entire ship and carry the rest of the team to the finish line by just thinking through the game for the entire team. It was actually really cool. I remember loving that event. So I think there is value in being in the same lobby. It is a little weird that you're going to have to grief each other, but you get 2 brains to talk about the same spots.
Yeah. I think if you're doing the solo doubles format competitively, it makes more sense to separate. But that's obviously not good for the viewers. And I think I think it is correct to have both in the same lobby. But if you're having both in the same lobby, just play fucking double up.
That's fair.
Just make it Summit. Just make it a double up event. What are y'all doing?
I'm down for double up, but I will say that like double up is definitely like a different play style from what most people play in. I'm personally down to play double up, but like not everyone might be, and I don't think it's bad to just have like the current format.
Sorry, I'm currently seeing if we're going to be taking another take before we head out. I do think I'm seeing the take now. I think it actually is going to be a pretty lengthy conversation. So I think we're going to hold off right now because it's something we can talk about pretty much any episode. So I don't think we're going to take any more takes, but Rain or Jirachy, did either one of you have any final thoughts on Summit or anything else you want us to talk about before we start to wrap up the show? It sounds like a
Oh.
no.
I was waiting for Rain to go first.
Oh no, I don't have any real takes.
Yeah, I don't really have any more takes. Because Slick Rick shouted out earlier. If you can go donate to the victims of the shooting in Colorado Springs that happened, I believe it was yesterday. Go do that because it was for people who haven't kept up with the news. Club Q in Colorado was the target of a mass shooting on Trans Day of Remembrance, and two of the five deceased victims are trans. So it's very, very, very sad day all around. Go donate if you can. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that link that was put in chat. I can't seem to find it right now. If someone else can dig that up, feel free to spam that link and donate there. Rain, did you have any final thoughts before we go?
Set 7, Set 8 looks really fun. I'm down to play that. Summit looks really fun. I'm down for all of you to watch that as well. I'm really excited for the upcoming set. I don't know how much time I'll have. Hopefully a lot, so I can play TFT more because this game is too fun. But yeah, really looking forward to the future.
There is one more thing I wanted to go on the record and say, which is that I have to apologize to Rainplosion because I have for a very long time been on the AMD rookie of the set train. And Rain, you know what? You put the nail in the coffin. I think that nobody can contest that not only were you the rookie of the split, you might have actually just been the player of the split or of the set as well. So you know what? Hats off to you, and I apologize on the record saying that I was wrong for ever questioning that AMD was better than you in set 7. So there you go. That's for everyone in the Discord, specifically Natures, who's constantly making fun of me about that. Oh, look at this. Asa is actually defending me. Looks like maybe Gangly's not an idiot who's just saying stupid things all the time in his Discord. Maybe he's actually pretty reasonable. I appreciate that,
I
Asa.
don't know if he's defending you, but I do agree. Andy's correct. His results were pretty close as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for High Roll Radio episode number 9. This has been a lot of fun. Appreciate both Jirachy and Rainplosion for joining me. Jirachy actually coming back for their second episode in a row after a 5-month hiatus of the show. So,
hey, I heard Rain was going to be on. I was like, hey, we got to make the trans people outnumber the cis people on the show. Fuck it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, appreciate you both coming on. I'm probably going to continue doing High Roll Radio as more one-off shows, probably more aligned with events instead of the bi-weekly schedule that we were doing before. But seriously, everybody who came out and chat, appreciate you all. This has been a ton of fun, and thanks for sticking with us through all the technical difficulties that we've kind of experienced. Eventually, I promise we will figure them all out. So last couple shout outs. Again, if you want to check out the High Roll Radio merch, you can check out that link. You actually might even be able to use !point merch. It does work. Nice. Great. You can check out the High Roll Radio merch. We have a shop there. So you can check all that out. If you want to support the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at High Roll Radio and also subscribe to me on YouTube at Gangly TFT. That's everything I have for you all. So again, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll catch you next time.